friend Roger Christopherson here again with another first listener review. And man, was I excited for this one. This is like one of those albums that, you really get excited for. It's one of my favorites. I know I've said that before, but there's like two guitar players that really inspired me to learn how to play and be unique and like just to listen to and have fun with. And the last one I did was Michael Schenker. This one is the new one from Vandenberg. It's Adrian Vandenberg, in case nobody knows, and the new release called Sin. Now they just had one come back out in 2020 that was just called 2020, and I was really excited about that one until I heard it, and unfortunately it did not live up to what I thought. He changed his guitar sound in recent years. His guitar sound is a lot more distorted now than I believe it used to be. It used to be a little bit more clean. He's still got the Les Paul. That's kind of his unique thing as far as the sound goes when he records. I know he played a little bit different stuff when he was in Whitesnake, different guitars and whatnot, but he had that sound like way back in the early Vandenberg days. And then when he recorded the solo for Here I Go Again, it has that really distinct sound to it. And just recently he's kind of like got more distorted in his sound. And for better or worse, whatever you think of it, just the sound has changed. And Ronnie Romero singing on that last album, just kind of like, I was burned out on Ronnie Romero at the time, and it just seemed like he was a hired gun, and I was hoping it was going to have more of a band feel, and it just didn't. So this one, I had actually seen some live videos with the new singer, Mats Levin, singing. In case you don't know who Mats Levin is, he was, with Candlemass for a little bit, but he probably was most known for singing with Yngwie. Done some other stuff in there, but those are probably the two most notable things. And then there's a couple other Hollander guys in the band, Randy Vander Elsen on bass and Cone Hurst on drums. Hopefully I didn't screw those names up too bad. So anyway, back to the album. First thing I noticed when I got it, album art, once again, done by Adrian himself, and it's the Sharks from Heading for a Storm. And Heading for a Storm was one of my favorite albums to listen to. I can't even tell how many times I've listened to that album. Air guitared along with it and just had so much fun with that album. It's one of my favorites, probably one of my top 10 albums of all time. I actually was very lucky. I got to meet Adrian Vandenberg way back on the Slip of the Tongue tour. Our manager at the time took us all out on the road individually to see different bands, and I got to go out with Whitesnake for a little bit, and got to hang out with Adrian's guitar tech, and he gave me a bunch of I got his used plays. He was like amazed that I wanted the old strings. I wanted the old strings off his guitar. I asked if I could have them. He gave me his old strings. I mean, I wanted the ones he played. Like, why wouldn't I want that? And then I met Adrian. He actually walked out on the stage the one night, and, while we were setting up, and I got to meet him, and I was the most starstruck I've ever been in my life. I don't know, I must have been I was young, really young back in those days. And so that memory's always stuck with me. He was like the coolest guy ever. He lived up. You say you should never meet your heroes, but I can't say that about Adrian. He was like one of the coolest guys ever. I follow him on Facebook. He's like one of the only musicians I actually follow, and he's just funny. He's always like posting funny stuff, and he's just down to earth and cool. And he hasn't done anything in the States for a long time. He's still done stuff with Whitesnake and whatnot, but anyway, I'm babbling on. I haven't even got to the album yet. Now, one thing about it, I noticed it's only 9 songs. So I was like, all right, well, I was hoping for more songs, but it's 41 minutes. So the album itself is, normal album length from whatever it was. And it just kicks in. Thunder and Lightning. It's like probably the best opening song they could have chosen for this one. Because it's kind of kicks in. It's a rocker. And Mats Levin, man, the first thing I noticed is, and I knew it was going to sound a little bit like this. He has a very David Coverdale-esque sounding voice. He does sound a lot like him. But as the songs go on, especially when it gets around to the title song, Sin, I don't know if any of you guys remember the band XYZ and their singer, Terry Lewis. I don't even know how you say the name right. I'm just terrible with names. But he's got a little bit of a tone like that, too. But throughout the album, you can hear his own styles comes through as well. He's definitely got his own style, but those two are definitely the influences I heard the most coming into the vocals. And, if you can't have Bert Herring singing on a Vandenberg album, I think this was the perfect choice for him. when it gets to the song, I mean, House of Fire's got a huge chorus on it. I think the riffs are just like insane on this album. Exactly what I was hoping it was going to be. The guitar playing on this is insane. His style just comes through. No matter what the sound of his guitar is, the style comes through. When it gets to the third song, Sin, it just sounds like it should have been on Slip of the Tongue. You could just picture that song on there. And the funny thing I noticed when Light It Up came on, and I also forgot to shut my phone off there. I had to get that real quick. The funny thing I noticed about Light It Up was like the riff for the chorus, like the main hook of the chorus, sounded like something right off of Heading for a Storm. I was like, man, this is like a perfect blend of like the Whitesnake era with the Vandenberg era. I was like, that song on this whole album, I think it was like the most perfect blend of that type of sound, and still sounding modern, like he's still coming up with something new. So that one I really like that one a lot. But and Walking on Water, great chorus, amazing vocals on that one. One thing I did notice about the lyrics on this one, very vague, like a lot of symbolism and stuff. Yeah, a little bit of I shouldn't say a little bit. There's a lot of cliches throughout this, especially on the first song, Thunder and Lightning, and a lot used throughout, a lot of symbolism and stuff. You have to like really pay attention to even know what these songs are about. So it's like maybe just one little negative thing. Unless you're into that, you don't even care. I like lyrics. I'm like a lyric guy, so that's one thing I kind of noticed. But they have a lot of reference to burning and night and dark, and I don't know. Maybe there's a lot of battles of. I've only listened to this thing a couple times so far, so I'm probably going to dig deeper into what all these mean. But Burning Skies, like really, I was starting to think that right around Burning Skies, and that song is also. I mean, there's not a bad song on here. They're all killer. And then Hit the Ground Running, another one, great riff, perfect. The blend of the Whitesnake thing, he really hit some good soaring high notes in his singing in this one. And the only thing I've noticed up to this point as well is like the solos are great. They're exactly what I want to hear when I hear Adrian play. But there's not a whole lot of like outro solos or a little stuff in between. So I kind of was hoping I get a little bit more of that, but it's still Adrian playing everything. But if you listen to like the older albums, it sounds like it's mainly like one track, and he's like trying to fill up space by doing a lot of stuff. Well, nowadays, the recording is a little different, so there's a lot of double tracking and stuff. You don't have to fill up space like you used to have to back in those days, or maybe wanted to back in those days. So left out a little bit of the little intricate stuff that he used to do, and just in the middle of the song. And then we get to like the only like mid-tempo. I was gonna say ballad, but it's really not even a ballad. It's kind of like a mid-tempo song called "Baby You've Changed," and a good song, catchy song, got a good feel. It kicks in right from the start with the drums right from the start, and it doesn't build up at all. It just kicks right in, goes right into it. Matt's on the lower vocal parts and then the chorus, or the verses, I mean. Not a really strong melody there at all. His lower voice, just no melody really much at all. It's this rough and gruff sounding gargly type thing going on. I just didn't care for that at all, but the rest of the song was great. The rest of the singing on this album is great. He does do some lower stuff, like actually there's a couple of songs that have like little intros. That's for the very last one has an intro on it. It was actually sung by, I believe, his son, Matt's son, and then there's another couple songs on here that have the intros that he does in his lower range, which work because it's heavy, and so that gargling, for lack of a better description, just really gritty intros works. But on the ballady stuff, kind of ballady thing here for "Baby You've Changed," that's the only thing that really didn't work for me. But other than that, I know there's probably a whole bunch of stuff I was thinking I was going to say about this, but what else can you say? It's Adrian Vandenberg kicking butt. Great blend. I think Matt's is like the perfect singer for this. The band he's had for a while. It's better than anything I think he's done since working with Whitesnake and all the stuff he did with Whitesnake. I like the Moon Kings. I liked Manic Eden and all that stuff. I shouldn't say I didn't like the last album. I just didn't think the blend of him with Ronnie Romero. I think Ronnie Romero actually just kind of like I'd heard so much of Ronnie Romero that I just didn't want to hear him on a Vandenberg album. So, other than that, I liked everything he's done, but this one is right up there. I've got a couple awesome albums this week. This is like one of the other. This week was good for albums. And this is one of the best ones that's come out in a long time. Just album wise, even albums that come out this year, this one is like amazing. So can't recommend it enough. Go out and check it out. I'd love to hear what you guys have to say about this, and if anything I've forgotten or you want to mention about Adrian and his band, always feel free to mention it down below. And as always, I have to ask to like, share, and subscribe, just because it helps get more people to get involved in the conversations. I really don't care about anything other than just people like finding new music and maybe sharing what music, or stories that they have and stuff like that. That's really what I care about the most, is just hearing what people have to say about the stuff that they're into and the music they want to recommend and the stories they have about what I'm talking about. So anyway, talk to you guys in the next one. We'll see ya.